So Donald Trump thought it would be a good idea on Super Bowl Sunday to attack Taylor Swift, to take credit for her musical career. Donald Trump also attacked our allies abroad and continued to whine about the various cases that he's involved in. On the other hand, you had President Biden post photos of himself throwing a football around with his children back in the late 1980s. President Biden also talked about tangible and specific policies he's implemented to help the American people. Let me share each with you right now, the post by Trump, the post by President Biden, and you can judge for yourself who you think is someone who has the interests of our country instead of the unhinged interests of themselves and the desire to be a wannabe fascist, a wannabe dictator. Let's take a look. Here's what Donald Trump posted. This one's about Taylor Swift. Donald Trump goes, "I signed and was responsible for the Music Modernization Act for Taylor Swift and all other musical artists. Joe Biden didn't do anything for Taylor and never will. There's no way she could endorse crooked Joe Biden, the worst and most corrupt president in the history of our country, and be disloyal to the man who made her so much money. Besides that, I like her boyfriend, Travis, even though he may be a liberal and probably can stand me." So there you have Donald Trump saying that he's the reason that Taylor Swift has made money. He made her so much money, and he's the reason that she's successful. I mean, how despicable can you get right there? By the way, a DeSantis supporter by the name of Peter Henline wrote, "This might be the most pitiful thing Trump has ever posted. Please don't endorse Biden because I made you so much money and I like your boyfriend. What a loser." And look, it is heartening to me that you have even DeSantis supporters and Nikki Haley supporters and others saying Trump is a loser and this behavior is unhinged and disqualifying. Speaking of which, here's Donald Trump's post right here saying, 20, by the way, this basically seems like Adolf Hitler wrote this. I mean, take a look at this language. It's almost indistinguishable from the type of stuff that Hitler would say. Trump writes, 2024 is our final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media. We will drain the swamp. We will liberate our country from these tyrants and villains once and for all." And then Trump says, "Thank you, South Carolina, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point." And over the weekend, he gave that speech in South Carolina where he attacked Nikki Haley's husband and said, "Where is Nikki Haley's husband? He's deployed overseas in the National Guard. He's in Africa protecting and serving our country," something that Donald Trump knows absolutely nothing about. Donald Trump also was in South Carolina attacking NATO and saying that he would be okay. And in fact, he would encourage Russia to show up and destroy one of our allies. And Trump made up a story about a foreign country that's part of NATO, that's a big government, asked me what I would do if they didn't fully pay their bills. And I said, I would encourage Russia to destroy you. So violating Article 5 of NATO. And of course, Donald Trump doesn't pay his bills. And of course, where's Melania? It's always projection and confession with this group. I'll show you one of Donald Trump's other posts right here, which, by the way, mirror the horrific language that he used when he was in South Carolina. And by the way, that he always uses when he gives these traveling fascist circus things across the country, which he refers to as rallies. Trump writes, "From this point forward, are you listening, U.S. Senate? No money in the form of foreign aid should be given to any country unless it is done as a loan, not just a giveaway. It can be loaned on extraordinarily good terms like no interest and an unlimited life, but a loan nevertheless. The deal should be contingent that the U.S. is helping you as a nation. But if the country we are helping ever turns against us or strikes it rich sometime in the future, the loan will be paid off and the money returned to the United States. We should never give money anymore without the hope of a payback or without, quote, strings attached. The United States of America should be stupid no longer. And fundamentally, what Donald Trump just doesn't understand is international diplomacy generally, and he wants to attack the kind of existing status quo of NATO in post-World War II that's kept the United States of America safe, where America's been a leader internationally and has kept the world in a state of relative peace and prosperity compared to historical times in the past, and where America's never been more prosperous as a nation as it is now. But Donald Trump ultimately wants to destroy that system. He wants a system of Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, President Xi, and Trump sees himself as an authoritarian as part of that group, undermining the rights and liberties and freedoms of people. That's what he brags about. Trump attacks New York Attorney General Letitia James right here. He says she's a lunatic AG and posts a video about her. Then as you scroll down through Donald Trump's social media posts, there's these weird ads over and over again. Trump Terminator bobbleheads. And here's another ad. 5-star rating, Trump Terminator bobbleheads. These are separate ads as you're scrolling down one after another. He then attacks Special Counsel Jack Smith, says, if Special Counsel Jack Smith wants to do good for our country and help unify it, he should drop all litigation against Joe Biden's political opponent, me, and let the country heal. So that's what Trump is posting. Can we just compare that for a moment to what President Biden's posting and saying? President Biden posts this photo. 1987 with my boys, this Super Bowl Sunday. I hope you can take part in the age-old American tradition of eating great food, gathering with great friends, and watching a great game. President Biden writes, this administration is bringing manufacturing back to America after decades of offshoring. And indeed, all the data reflects there's a manufacturing boom underway. There's about 46,000 infrastructure projects as part of the infrastructure bill that President Biden led and signed into law. You brought back the semiconductor industry here with the CHIPS Act. Here's what President Biden writes. As the S&P 500 closes above 5,000 for the first time ever, notches its 5th straight winning week, President Biden says, good news for folks. As we started the weekend, the stock market going strong is a sign of confidence in the American economy. President Biden writes, America invented the semiconductor. It's time to bring manufacturing and the jobs that come with it home. My administration is investing an additional $5 billion in microchip research development and workforce as part of the implementation of our CHIPS and Science Act. President Biden writes, our economy has created 14.8 million jobs since I took office. Unemployment has been under 4% for 2 full years. Inflation has been at the pre-pandemic level of 2% over the last half year. By the way, I'll show you what President Biden posts here, because Donald Trump said at his speech in South Carolina, where's Nikki Haley's husband, who's deployed overseas serving our nation? And President Biden respects our troops. And so he wrote, the answer is that Major Haley, who he is, Major Haley, is abroad serving his country right now. We know he, Donald Trump, thinks our troops are suckers, but this guy wouldn't know service to his country if it slapped him in the face. And here's just to remind you what Donald Trump said in South Carolina. Play the clip.
Over to see me at Mar-a-Lago, sir. I will never run against you. She brought her husband. Where's her husband? Oh, he's away. He's away. What happened to her husband? What happened to her husband? Where is he? He's gone. He knew.
And as Donald Trump says things like that, and I've showed you other clips where Donald Trump can barely put together sentences at these speeches anymore, and again attacks our allies. And let me just show you this one other clip just before I go to show you what the New York Times is saying about Trump. Let me just show you this other portion of the speech to set this up better. Here's Trump in South Carolina saying that he would encourage Russia to attack one of our NATO allies and do whatever they want with it. Play the clip.
They asked me that question. One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
So here's how New York Times writes about Trump and Trump's speeches. In contrast to Joe Biden, this is what the New York Times said, Mr. Trump does not appear to be suffering the effects of time in such visible ways. Mr. Trump dyes his hair and appears unnaturally tan. He is heavy-set and tall, and he uses his physicality to project strength in front of crowds. When he takes the stage at rallies, he basks in adulation for several minutes, dancing to an opening song, and then holds forth in speeches replete with macho rhetoric and bombast that typically lasts well over an hour, a display of stamina. And one commentator says, does the New York Times want to F Trump or something? I mean, what are you doing, New York Times? Like, whoa. What are you even talking about? Like, we see his speeches. He's cognitively impaired. He's doing ding dong, swoosh is how he's talking about things with Trump. I mean, he's bragging about cognitive tests. The song you're talking about is the J6 anthem that he sings with insurrectionists that it was pre-recorded. Like, what in the world are you doing? Disgusting, New York Times. It really is some gutter journalism right there by the New York Times, lately and generally. Pathetic. Subscribe to this network, the MeidasTouch Network. Let's keep growing together. We're going to show you the real news. Just going to show you what they're saying. Evaluate for yourself. I don't need to have the New York Times write its fan fiction, love story about Donald Trump. I mean, when he's threatening our NATO allies, threatening our troops, and behaving like a freaking maniac. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.